Hello. Hello. We're going to be returning very shortly. If anybody's there listening, I'm just doing a sound check here.
How's that going?
Well, we're going to find out right now.
Oh, good.
We just booted it back up, and I'm going to go in the other room and see what I've created. There we go. We're going to be listening here for some better sound. So now that I'm talking, I'm going to see if that comes up and have we solved our sound problem, or do we still have problems? We'll be finding out soon. So I am listening. We are live. We have the chart.
Need some help?
So now that I'm talking, I'm going to see if that comes up and we sound is perfect again.
5 minutes is what we've.
Can you put a timer down below here?
Yeah, I can go put a timer up now.
Okay.
Okay. And
This
then we're
is-
ready. I can tell Bill we're ready in 5 minutes.
Everything's ready. We are going to put a timer up on this page. We will be coming back to our live stream in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. We are going to put a timer up on this page. We will be coming back to our live stream in 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Cool. Sounds great.
Hey, Paul. Make sure that's on, please.
So it's all paradigms. I just know there's a rule of law is just so fundamental to taking that next step.
Mechanism.
Yeah, so that's definitely good. What's the regime is
What
what
you
you
do
do,
in South
and
Africa. Your son doing all right? Too long of a pause.
David, we're all doing all right.
You sure?
We've had amazing problems that I don't know what. It's not like I've been able to solve them instantly, but it seems like turning everything off and starting it over again, we got good sound again. So,
Is that what you're gonna do?
no, we already got a good sound.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Paul, I am going off to get some
Pickles?
things at the store. Is there anything I can do for you? Before I do that?
David, there's nothing you can do for me. Thank you.
All right. Just want to make sure you're taken care of.
I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna mute this little thing because we're now broadcasting on the internet. Everything work okay here for you? Survive lunch?
I'll be glad when dinner's over tonight.
Dinner's over.
That'll be kind of an easy spot then for me because tomorrow is just a couple of snacks and lunch, no dinner in the evening.
Well, we've
So dinner tonight's going to be the one that'll be the.
So we've seen some things with live streaming and the possibility of it. It's almost like how about this, that we produce high quality stuff first and then send it out to, just copy it to the YouTube channel. This live thing is.
Well, webinars are good because you can charge for them.
Yeah.
Very good group.
Yes.
This isn't showing up on my thing. And by the way, the battery is gonna. Do you have another battery for that?
Uh-huh.
It's showing up as if you were on menu. That's it's showing up the menu.
Well, then I'm just gonna do this. Cause you had it looks like this. Now it will show up like it was this because whoever turned on my camera turned on this, which was the menu.
Let me check it.
Now I'll go back to it. I'm gonna change batteries though, so give me a second.
See you later, Paul.
Have fun.
But then, you go to the Reform Club in London and
I'm not finding
see
myself
busts of
sort of those make sense to.
I'm still not seeing it.
Turn the battery off. Check now.
Yeah. That's where we're.
I just replaced the battery.
That's.
I mean, just in particular about the subject.
Who's our next speaker?
Me.
You? All right, you know the drill.
Yeah, I did. When I put it on, I'm just going to go have a pee bit, but I promise it won't be live, right?
Yeah, I'll get you when you come back.
Okay.
You pee.
Okay, yep, I think
Sanders
that
vote.
Sanders photo.
I think that we came from
Voter.
spiral.
I'm not sure there's.
That's me. Yeah, I'm a Sanders voter.
I'm not sure there's anyone in this house.
Unless somebody wants to pay me $2 to be a Trump voter.
You got the right attitude, but I don't think you're going to.
Naturally coming from a place of fear and like, oh, holy shit, and it was like the data was still really new, and that first response was fear, and to kind of out of fear bring a push, like that just is a recipe for either incapacitation, like
Here we go.
too big,
All
I
right.
don't know how to be a
Beautiful, beautiful.
or defense.
Lovely. I like that background there. That is super duper. Perfect for what we're going to do now.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a handprint and a footprint?
Oh, so a footprint is essentially your a measurement of your
Your impact.
negative impact,
Yes, your impact.
and a handprint is a measurement of your positive impact. Yeah. Yep. It's the way that our field. So the handprint, the footprint,
in there.
was established. It's been around for about 20 years.
Yeah, footprint I'm familiar with.
Footprint. And actually, it's an interesting development because footprint, when it was first established, it was established as the ecological footprint, and that concept had both the impact and where you stood vis-a-vis the threshold. It was part of the notion of a footprint. As that got developed, it's migrated to where footprint is just the impact. So when you talk about a carbon footprint, you're not talking about sort of where you stand vis-a-vis the threshold. And so for a while I was talking about footsteps, whereby a footprint is sort of like a static, where you stand in a moment in time, whereas a footstep is where is your impact relative to a goal, or relative to a journey of where it needs to be,
where it was and
where it's going, where it needs to be. And the handprint is a much more recent development that particularly this guy Greg Norris out of Harvard has articulated. And it was trying to come up with something that would balance out the footprint. And the footprint often has a negative. And you could have a footprint that's actually positive, but that's not how it's generally understood. So he wanted to come up with something that articulated and gave language for a positive impact.
Okay.
It's when we really get sophisticated about accounting for these things, footprint is what holds you, handprint is what you hold. And so being held is not actually a negative inherently. It's when there's full circulation in the system, your footprint just describes a neutral data point about the process, what's holding you.
Yeah, and in terms of nature and stuff, sometimes
We produce
footprints help stir things up to grow. So
That's right.
it's not always a
Some of the seeds on the prairies of the Americans kind of
yes.
planted, isn't it?
That's right. We needed some fire.
And footprint.
Okay, live stream team,
Yeah.
ready to go?
The hook
Yep.
Packing the seeds in, right?
Yep.
Bill, Monster of Ceremony,
Are we ready to roll?
Yeah.
That's great.
give us a good kickoff.
Sure. Is
Yeah, the
the
team's ready to
technology
rock.
okay?
I got a mic.
That's great.
Um,
I've got
Paul, we need to get Paul,
some
right?
time.
yeah, if we could grab Paul and
Yes.
Paul,
Number one.
Paul's right here.
Yeah, we're just making sure we have the sound.
Do you want to flip that?
test.
Well, it's coming in.
Flip
It's
that
just
up to
not.
the
Next to
yeah.
Can I hear you, Robin?
test. 1, 2, 3. Hello. As they say in South Africa, "Hallo, how's it, my mate?" Yeah, no fine, my China.
That sound coming in, we're just checking.
Did you say no sound or good sound?
Was that a thumbs up?
He's checking out my other.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
we did a push record as well.
All right.
Alrighty, hold. Da, 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 da. Ooh. And the camera is over there, is that?
I think it's not yet.
Not yet ready to rock.
Probably where it's not Paul, but
Go back.
we do. Peter Paul Mary.
He's just checking things. Is that? Anything there?
We're way back and line it up. Coconut water.
Okay.
Very delicious.
But I don't know if he's recording yet, so.
Well, hopefully not.
Yeah, no. I don't think so just yet.
Is it Paul we're waiting for?
Coconut.
I'm shifting my mindset about coconut water.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Trying to get you ready.
Okay, Rebecca, we're good.
Ready to rock and ready
Good.
to roll.
And are we
You got a flashing
on
light there.
record?
You got a flashing light?
Oh, do you want to hit record on the sound? Okay, great.
Back up on that. Here we have both room sound and Robin sound.
Yep.
No, as I'm using that as a mixer.
Okay. Test.
No, you're good in that.
Okay. How about the ambient? Say something, Bill?
Yeah. Hello.
Set the level there.
No, the levels are all good.
Yeah.
Good,
it's getting
okay.
I want to see if I can get this as a recorder also.
Okay. integrate that into that strategic psychological helicopter top-down perspective. See the wood for the trees, and that's the strategist. So how many people do you think, 2/3 of our world, the people running the world today, it's not politicians, it's businesses. They buy the politicians. We know that, right? That's the system. It's going to change, we hope. So if we want these people to change, we need some individualists, but we equally, let's take a few examples. Ben and Jerry's, let's name some companies. Ben and Jerry's,
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods. A lot of conscious capitalism folks are there.
Mrs. Gooch.
Mrs. Gooch.
Mrs. Gooch. Okay.
You've heard of Mrs.
Charles,
Gooch.
I haven't heard of Mrs. Gooch.
I hope it's tasty.
She's the precursor of Whole Foods.
Oh, I see.
Oh.
Okay, nobody's heard of it. That's good. Well, you know, so we've got
Nobody as young as you have heard.
nearly as young as us.
I know that.
Okay, thank you. Now up here we were talking earlier about Unilever and Nike. So these companies are seeing that this integration of all these things, as Nike says, sustainability is just part of what we do. It's not a separate department. Everybody has a job that involves sustainability. Every function. It's integrated consciousness. It's not just, we'll do our sustainability thing on the side here and we hope the CEO likes it. What's the business plan? That whole conversation goes away because everybody says, well, that's just part of who we are. That's how we do business. Now, these folks up here, the alchemists, are very rare. Remember, that's 3.5% of 1,000 leaders, so that's 35 people. Alchemists transform social systems. They transform big systems. So at one level, Bernie is appealing to these guys who are really fed up. And there's quite a few down here who would have voted Trump, but will vote for him because they're fed up, right? These guys are scared of him because achievers believe that he's a socialist, and that just means more taxation and more regulation, and I've already got enough of that thinking, right? And the people who have lots of guns in Texas, they don't like him. But he's not a bad guy because he supports some of that gun stuff. Strategists, however, and alchemists, these people up here transform organizations, supply chains, industries. These people transform societies. There's not a lot of them. So I put Pullman somewhere, he's moved from a strategist to an alchemist. That's why he spent so much time with the global systems designers and thinkers. Now, the issue is, when we talk about sustainability, as Rolf was saying, in the center of his triangle, there's this integral word. So, to think integrally, you usually discover this at the individualist, the Peter Senge learning organization, getting people to work together, pluralistic consensus. You then learn how to do that strategically for a bigger system, and then you get up to the point of how does this plug into the SDGs? How does this plug into the global scenarios? So, let's just start there. What enables us to do that? Well, we've spent 120,000 years getting to this point in evolution. Just to go through a spectrum of development that we just described. We used to be predominantly red, opportunists. Genghis Khan and his hordes united the purple tribes in the steppes of Asia, and they developed a red empire. Yeah? And until during the agricultural revolution, that was the system that preyed on the cities. The cities then had to react by developing walls and defenses. That developed governance systems for cities and then towns, and then you had the Hanseatic League in Europe, and then you've got national states emerging from that. So the emergence of human consciousness has been mapped by integral theory. It's the story of a dynamic interplay of human coping mechanisms that leave behind observable patterns in biopsychocultural social systems. It's like archaeology, but it's at a social level. So we're building literally on every single foundation that's ever been laid by any human being before us. Now, how many of you were able to fill out the assessments, the culture you'll need of you? Just a quick show hand. Okay, good. So we'll have some people who've done it who can work with in pairs, and we'll be able to coach that a bit at the end of this exercise, right? Now, I'm not going to go through all of this because there's a lot of work to do, and you'll become familiar with these systems in yourself. And the best way to do that is to discover them, yeah, rather than me talk about them. But the big point about this slide is that this is a point in 1972. Abe Maslow, Claire Graves, and all the people that you'd have heard of, Leon Festinger, I guess, cognitive dissonance, top psychologists in America went to a conference, the American Psychological Association, and Claire Graves gave a speech. And it's on the internet, you can find it. It's a brilliant speech, turned into a paper. And he basically said he had been researching his students for 25 years, and he discovered where these students were and he saw an evolution in their values over that 25 years. And in his research until 1968, remember that's a significant date in our history, 1968, if you were alive at that time, or the Paris riots, the flower power spring in Berkeley. There's a certain moment in history that where things shifted. He saw this as the peak of human evolution, and his students challenged him. They said, Professor Graves, why is it that Freud says something different to Jung? Why is it that Piaget and Maslow, why can't the psychologists agree on human nature? They contradict each other. And that got him thinking. He thought, well, maybe they're describing different stages of development. They were. Yeah? So Freud is very much down the id is here, instinct-driven survival. Piaget brings you into the cognitive rational domain up here. Maslow was the first to say human potential and discover the human. That's not long ago, right? It's 50 years. We never used that word human potential. It was like, would have been a joke. Give me a break. You just get on and live your life and do the stuff, you know. So he was the first to break through that. Now, Glenn Graves said, between 68 and 72, he could not, there were certain people he could not map here. And it really fooled, he thought, maybe I've screwed up here, there's something wrong. Then he looked at his data, he was a very thorough guy, and he said, I found a new system. Now the most important, interesting thing about that system, well, there are two things. One is, this system was the first system that had no fear. Think about that. Eh? No fear. The reduction in fear was massive in those people that had this new cognitive capability. A. B, these people could see things systemically. They could map multi-perspectives. They could see things from lots of different points of view, and then they could see how to kind of put those together in synergistic ways. And then he called that second tier of evolution of human consciousness. And he called that article, Mankind Prepare for a Momentous Leap. And you think about what's happened since 72. Things have just gone, things that were completely unpredictable. Internet, mobile telephony, just in technology. Think of human consciousness movement, boom, off the charts. Globalization. Suddenly we're bringing all the cultures of the world together all at the same time. I mean, San Diego is amazing. You just see the multicultural dynamics here, amazing, very, very interesting. So okay, that's the key point of this slide. We could spend a day on this, but we'll sort of go through it in bits and pieces as we go through.
And one of the things that's been most helpful to me is the notion that the shift, the integral shift is the ability to understand up until the green line of development, every single stage of development believes that their perspective is the right perspective. And that the primary shift is the ability to recognize that they're all right in their own realm, and that you can have multiple right perspectives so that there isn't a singular right perspective. That was the primary, to my understanding, that was one of the primary sort of breakthrough from a consciousness perspective.
Absolutely, Bill. And that is really well, there are lots of powerful things about what we're doing in thrivability, but this is kind of like a cornerstone, so that's why we want to spend a bit of time on it this afternoon. So there we are, Claire Graves. It's well worth researching and reading the books and stuff.
He was a big New York guy at Schenectady University, and he talked really slowly
and every word was carefully calculated. And you can't help but enjoy that sort of thing. People like him don't exist anymore, for God's sake. I mean, there's no, everybody's rushing around, but he was like this giant, really big guy. He was just a deep thinker. He just had the time, he did it. So he did the research. So how does that apply to habitats? Because what we're doing is we're using habitats here as a concrete thing that you can look at and be in, to understand our evolution, yeah? And thrivability is very much about meshing ourselves, bio, psycho, with our environment, cultural, social, yeah? And the whole has to be thrivable, because we can't optimize our thrival, bio, psycho, at the expense of cultural, social, because then we get what you call a revolution. And we don't want revolutions because they're highly destructive. And it takes societies, well, most never recovered. The French never recovered from their revolution. They're still struggling. Russians, I heard Russians say to me, well, you know, Robin, we wish we never had Lenin. We wish we stayed like England in 1917. You people so far ahead of us, you know? Apologizing for communism. He said 70 years, we go backwards. And I won't use that word. They're amazingly brilliant people. They're genii. I mean, the Russians do things in their heads that you and I could just begin to imagine.
Needs a lot of vodka.
Yeah.
And vodka. Yes.
So let's.
You probably have the same comment about the American Revolution, do you, Robin?
Okay. Look.
I wasn't going to float that fish.
Let's put it this way. If you give us back the tea, we can do a deal, you know?
I mean, I think the point is that when we talk about revolution, that that can be attractive in terms of knowing that there's a broken system. Okay, but there's a destructiveness in revolution and the need to recreate another system. Another way of doing that is to do it on the fly, so that you're creating a new system without having to destroy the existing system.
You create the pull.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than pushing back on the existing system, you create a pull that moves the energy from the old system to the new.
Exactly. And
Redirect.
that's called transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it in organizations. So one of my speciality was organizational transformation for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw the regression going on when Hewlett-Packard bought Compaq. And I saw Carly Fiorina destroy a culture that had taken 50, 60 years to build in a year. I saw John Brown take BP and we called it Beyond Petroleum. And he said, what I want is a revolution. He said, I want us to push this organization to the edge of chaos. And it literally did. It shook up, half the general managers left. They said, we can't handle this new world. Fine, well, that's fine. They get a nice big paycheck, and they go off to do something else. But then it regressed, because they bought Amoco, and then they started having all these things in Texas, and that was never a good thing. So I got fed up, and that was how I discovered this, because I was using the spiral dynamics in Asia to do transformation with some of the big corporates. And you could see it in each country, in each city in Asia. You could see the difference between Singapore, very blue diplomat, controlled order system, from an orangey achiever Hong Kong with a lot of red underbelly, Chinese red underbelly, triads and gangsters and sort of Chinese mafia. And then you could see for the Philippines with a very tribal structure. So the best CEO we had in the Philippines, he wore the tribal outfit for corporate gatherings, and he'd use tribal rituals to bring all the tribes together and make them happy to be working in this big family. Yeah, and that worked too. And when you saw that, you went, this is smart. He just picked up on it. So let's start a bit here. I did some dancing. When you see there's a fireplace? At night, with the big ceremonies, they light a fire and they start dancing, like your American Indians, around the fire. And then they have these drummer guys. And then I don't know how they do it. They get into a trance, and they dance for hours, and people come in and out. And I was sitting next to one of the drummers, and then he got tired, and without a word, without anything, another guy came in. The drum was passed, a beat was not missed. It was like the whole thing was a flow, right? And they need that to survive. That system needs that to survive. But when they get to 30 people, those huts that face inward to the fire, and you get a bicycle or radio, property, until then it's totally communal, everybody shares everything. They turn the huts to face away from the fire so they can protect the property. And it starts to destroy the social bonding in that system, which is what kind of what we're doing to those systems, right? Okay. Now, when you get to 300 people and bigger, like the Zulu and the Xhosa in Africa where I come from, you need a different system of organization. So you come up to the tribal system, and that works up to about 300 people. Gore-Tex found that 250 was the magic number in their factories, because that's the maximum number of people you can know personally and remember their faces. Now you can feel part of your tribe, right? And maybe that explains also some of the social dynamics on Facebook and other, virtual networks, because your tribe, you like to know that that's Bill at the other end there. It's not just some person you've never met, right? So there's a limit to how well you can organize around the tribal structure. And they're very much, it's a Harry Potter world. It's the starting point. People laugh at superstition and sangomas and shamans, but there's a lot of indigenous wisdom in these systems, right? That's been built up over hundreds of thousands of years that works. And that gives us the capacity to imagine things that currently are impossible. So think about it. All those crazy stories and stuff, that the impossible dream is, in evolutionary terms, always possible. It just takes time. So we've started to build in children. This is the age of about 6 to 8. Where they start being able to conceive of things that are impossible. And that's when they love Harry Potter. And yeah, that was it was a magical age for my kids. You could have fun with that. Probably for yours as well. Now, as we developed these societies and tribes, and as they started to come together, and that's what Genghis Khan specialized in, he organized the tribes, because alone they were easy to pick off. Together they were invincible. So he created a sort of military system together with some new technology called stirrups and horses. And he basically got as far as Hungary, in the West. And what did the people of Hungary and everywhere else have to do? They built walls. In France, where I live, you can see all the old towns, walls everywhere, forts, walls, because these marauders would come, not just Genghis, but then the Huns, Attila the Hun, and everybody else learned how to do this horse thing and ride into town, like doing the Western movies, and it's a pretty old pattern. So that's the red system. It's based on pure physical power. The ones who survive and win are the big guys who can swim the freezing cold rivers, and their kids. Genghis's first thing with his kids was to take them across the freezing cold river and run up the mountain in the winter to toughen them up. It's a tough world. You gotta, because you gotta be tough to survive. So you're helping your kid understand. Come on, kid, you gotta toughen up. And this is our football heroes and our sports heroes and our military heroes. They're all these kind of people. To be a hero. Now,
okay, I'm just
yeah.
that previous one. First of all, was a great painting, but what is that supposed to represent? And what about the one on the right, which is I assume a photograph?
Well,
It's like Bruegel.
that's a good question. What it's saying is basically that I have my little system here inside these walls, and I protect the countryside outside it, right? So this is the feudal system to some extent as well, the knights and the lords and their castles. And I create a commons that's safe, basically. And that's the sort of intimacy and security feeling you get in a Bruegel painting, isn't it? It's like familiar and everybody knows everybody else, and you're protecting that against the Empire. Think of Star Wars, you know? That evil empire, the Death Star.
Everything outside of your walls.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So you know, these patterns are deep in our culture and they're archetypal. Now, of course, when you get to a certain scale of population and you invent science in the first Renaissance and technology as a deliberate act of change and transformation and control, very importantly, you then end up designing cities that are like this, right? Remember the cities of the 50s and 60s, Le Corbusier, all that stuff? I called it brutalism. Other people call it modernism. So I just always hated concrete jungles. They put a token tree over here and a little token fountain over there, and you know, but really it sucked for me. But for a lot of people, that was progress. I mean, in Russia, they built bazillions of these. In every city they have, you know, whole. And London, they had the whole East End of London was bombed in the Second World War. They just built tower blocks. And then they discovered how socially corrosive they were and tore half of them down. So, and we created the city. We created the modern city, the modern town. Tomorrow, Gil Friend and Marilyn Hamilton will be talking about transforming cities. And the beauty of this as a way of experiencing thrivability is that we all have experience of cities. We might all not have run global corporations or worked in them. We might not all have been in alternative communities or NGOs, but we've all lived in habitats. And we can all see the archaeology, yeah? And remember, this is bio, psycho, social, cultural. So this is the social cultural template, and we are the bio-psycho interacting with the socio-cultural and co-creating it. This space here, you've taken somebody else's home and converted it into a whole new functionality, form and function, right? And evolved it to fit your needs and purpose so that we can be here today. But not in this model. Thank goodness. Now, around the turn of the last century, they discovered elevators, or invented elevators. Because before, in Paris, the highest buildings are 5 stories, 6 stories. Haussmann set that limit, because if you ever lived on the top floor of a building with 5 stories that didn't have an elevator, you understand what it means. Oh, I forgot that thing. Oh, oh, did you remember? No, I'll just, you spend your day running down the steps. So this 100-story buildings just.
You learn not to forget.
Yeah. So we forget how recent it is, That building in New York, was it the Gridiron building? What's that one on the corner? It was one of the world's first skyscrapers. Yeah. With that.
Right in the corner of Times Square there?
Yeah.
That's the Gridiron.
Gridiron, yeah. And that was only about 30 stories, but then it got higher and higher, and as the elevators got better, and
Faster.
so steel got stronger, and yeah. So, and we ended up with, the Shard is iconic in London. That's a beautiful postmodern building at some level, Renzo Piano, and it is a stunning building. It's amazing.
And next to it is the Gherkin.
And then there's this very stupid building over there called the Gherkin, which I can't understand. And this is one called the Walkie Talkie.
Yeah, funny name.
It's just weird. But
Nokia headquarters?
it would have been perfect.
They would love that.
So now we're into, I can use reason to design habitats and spaces. And the problem is I now externalize, what I create is sky people and street people. And as my city starts to suck in the street people, they have to go back out to, in many cases in the developing world, slums, Yeah, so you'd fly into Kuala Lumpur, right? As you come in, before you land and you look out the window, there's a massive, giant garbage dump. I mean, this is a big garbage dump. There's thousands of people picking up bits of garbage as the graders go up and down, who are literally recycling to make their living, stuff from the garbage dump. And they got these little huts. It's like Africa, like little huts with tin shanty stuff everywhere. But I was shocked because that was the first time in Asia I'd seen the scale of this, phenomenon. And so we're externalizing this, to have that. So your Starbucks, probably not a good example. They're trying to be more sustainable, but a lot of the things you do in the city are costing that, and that's something a lot of people don't think about. Now, once we've been rational and drive-driven, we realize, get to a certain point in our life and say, what's this costing? What's it all about, Alfred? What does it all really mean? It's a very funny phenomenon. How many of you have a friend or know someone that made a truckload of money fairly early on in life, and then they kind of disappeared into a kind of black hole of eco-villages or hippie lifestyle or alternative stuff? Does anybody here know anybody like that? Maybe you did this at some point.
We know people who know.
Yes, exactly.
No friends of mine.
No, of course not. And I'm sure Dave in South Africa, if he's still there, probably knows a few people like that. And they come up with these wild fantasies. Now we can have utopia, right? And I am a powerful achiever, so I can help you become, create a new utopia. Not far from here, in Nevada, there's a gigafactory. And we have a man here who's ordered a Tesla 3, self-confessed, $1,000 deposit holder, change agent, 500,000 people, $1,000 each, boom. And Elon he's thinking like this, right? This is the next stage of design. So I want to create a space where people can sort of have some equality in it. Okay, some people have bigger houses, some have smaller houses, but the commons is for all of us. And that's great, that's important, we need that. And in some cities we were lucky, like in London we had the Royal Parks, which then became commons. So London has the most green space of any big city in the world relative to the built area, right? But that's an accident of history. Many places that didn't happen. So we're designing these green infrastructures. Have any of you been into the airports, the new airports? A lot of them have green walls.
What is that? That's a great photograph.
On the right?
On the right.
Both of them.
That's Oracle on the right.
That is that was the
No
original
way.
design for Oroville.
Yeah, it's a model.
Yeah.
Or the model like that. But
And that one on the left, is that a real
Wow.
photo?
That one on the left is more of a Chinese stroke, visualization of a modern city there.
Ah,
But they're building things like that. This is happening. Green roofs in London, the Wild West End. They're greening the roofs and putting solar panels on the roofs.
yeah.
In France, new planning law from now, 2016, any new building has to have green roofs that capture water and that have solar or some kind of renewable energy on them. Any new building. I have 20 square meters of panels on the old chateau in Perpignan, and that it's a small start, but it together with the wind power around us means that we probably don't generate any greenhouse gases from what we do there. Which is cool. When I get on a train from Barcelona, it was 2.5 kilograms of CO2. It's not on the website. So each journey you take, it tells you how many kilograms of CO2. If I'd taken my car, even though it's an eco-friendly car, it would have been 10 times that. So we're getting into a world where all of this is possible. We have the numbers, the data. And now we take this momentous leap. So what does that look like? Well, it's still in our imagination, but now we're fusing the whole world, right? Everything, the best of everything. Multicultural fusion. celebrating everything that's ever happened up the spiral. Yeah? Every level of existence, everything that's good that we've experienced can now be built into what we're doing. And it can all be loved and respected. Think about that. So tomorrow we're going to look at how do we get to that future. Because the beauty of this is you can visualize it in your head. It's not like some abstract idea of how things are going to be better. It's reality. It's what things will be. Which is why guys like Bucky Fuller are so popular, right? Because
There's a little area, but that's just a research area in Dubai, very close to the Emirates Towers, where they built a little village where everything is 3D printed. And have done the first apartment houses. You can go there and feel what it is. So it's made for the people there to feel what the 3D holistic design will actually look like.
and it's very important what Ralph's saying, because experiencing something is so much more powerful than just thinking about it, hearing about it, seeing it. But being part of it and even co-creating it, wow, that's transformative. That's what we want to do with Thrivability. We want people to experience this. And we're trying to create like living labs where you can do this in an event. And so we're here in a kind of a living lab already, because you people have been experimenting with a very interesting, new way of living and working together. And so that was the inspirational bit. Now, not that this isn't fun, but some of you have printed out your leader view and culture view results. Can you just show us, just hold them up just so we can see them?
Where's yours?
Or you may have them on your computer screen.
I've got it on my computer screen.
Yeah, exactly. So you're on paper now, right? Okay.
Not entirely.
But you should have something
print them
that,
out really quickly.
yeah, that's fine. It's just that you want to be able to, you should have something that looks like that. Yeah? And that is something I could spend a lot of time talking about, but it's going to be much better for you to go into groups and to learn about yourself through the lens of that. And there are two different profiles, which is important just to make that point. Leader view is really about you. Yeah, it's about yourself, bio-psycho you. Culture view is how you plug into the milieu around you. So it's, and in an organization, this is very important. So it's how well do you get on with your boss and your team? Yeah. And when you do a 360 of that, what we could do, if you have a 100,000 person organization, we can do the entire organization, right? So you begin to find out, you develop a new language. I think the most important thing is when you develop new maps and models, you develop a new language in which you can have conversations that were never possible before, because you depersonalize things. You make it politically feasible to talk about yourself and others in objective ways, rather than, I don't know why, that guy's just a jerk, I work for him and, I go to meetings and stuff and I try to be polite, but I don't like him, right? And you can't put your finger on it. Yeah, what is it? Did I say something? Is he just a sociopath? Or is he just not like me, my boss? What's going on? But when you drill into this, you begin to see sometimes it's not personal at all. They just see the world in a very different way, have different priorities to you. And then when you learn to live with that, you become much more creative in your response, personally and as a team, as an organization. That has a lot to do with thrivability, because unless you get that right, all the other stuff is slightly academic. It's just technical change, incremental innovation. And an example of that is that often when you do these tests, you find some people find their existing organization feels like this. Yeah? And what they want is that. And, well, that's a pretty big gap, So, do you change the organization? Do you change jobs? What do? Do you create a special island of more advanced thinking in the company, like they used to call it the skunk works at Lockheed in the old days, and 3M, and what Google calls the 10% of your time. You know, it's an old idea, it's not new. Except those kids were born when it was originally done, so they thought it was new. You know? But actually, it's an old idea. You get the skunk works guys and girls over here to create and innovate and break out. So your social entrepreneurs are doing cool stuff here, while the old corporate types are meeting the bank and, you know, the politicians and suit stuff over here.
And footing the bill for this.
But they got the dough that finances that. They've got the exciting opportunities and new business models and ideas that make this survive longer than the next 5 or 10 years. And in fact, as Paul Pullman at Unilever said, he brings the NGOs into Unilever as part of the creative process. So World Wildlife Fund people with good ideas, they're getting paid by WWF, but they're like on the Unilever payroll because they're helping work out how to reduce palm oil impact on rainforests. Or, yeah, and the World WWF loves it, Unilever loves it. It's a win-win, and a win for the rainforest. Same with interface with networks, so there's fishing nets recycled into carpet tiles, yeah? Win-win-win for Royal Zoological Society and interface, and the Filipinos and others in other countries who haul the nets out that kill the fish and turn them into stuff that can be recycled into carpet tiles. So this tension might be a very creative, productive tension, or it could be deadly and destructive, depending how you play it. But if you know it exists, you can be creative. Now, most of you won't have heard of Elliot Jakes, but his books are very thick and worthy, and they've been around for a long time. And ironically, the American military used him initially because they wanted to understand, you know, why did the big picture general, how does a big picture global general, let's say a General Colin Powell, how does he think versus, you know, Sergeant X down in the, you know, trenches? And in a business context, of course, you've got frontline workers, sadly still plugging iPhones together at Foxconn or wherever it is. You've got their supervisors and the mid-level management, and the time horizons, and this is maybe the most important point that I've missed so far, that's why the slide is a good reminder. Levels of complexity increase as we go up the spiral, as we increase our development and mature. So I can handle time and space up to 3 months and very local down here. Yeah, I've got my job, I've got my workstation, and I do my work. Here I've got my team, we've got a yearly budget, we've got to meet targets. Here I've got maybe a factory. Yeah, 3M had, when I did work with it, had 300 factories. Yeah, so somebody's a factory manager, got to think a bit further ahead. But they get orders from top down, who's going to make what, and blah, blah, blah. Now then you get the innovators, people in marketing, people in technology, R&D. What's next? 3 to 5 years. Now, at some point you go, you know, our whole business model doesn't work anymore. We've got to get out of that old business and get into a new one, or transform it. And then, finally, I get up to the global level where I'm thinking, you know, like Sustainable Development Goals. I'm thinking World Business Council for Sustainable Development, Vision 2050, 20, 30 years ahead. Now, how does that fit with what we've just been talking about? By the way, you can do financial valuations, and Bill and I have had a few conversations with some of the folks who do this. The beauty of it is they've kind of distilled it a bit. This is a huge body of work just right there, you know, the Jakes and all that other. So when we're talking about these systems, these are the psychological profiles and the coping mechanisms that enable you to work at that level versus work at that level. And the people that you lead you have to be a half a step ahead of them, but not too far ahead, because otherwise they think you're crazy. They won't understand, well, why is he saying that? Why is that important? So, okay, we're now going to How are we doing for time? On time?
Yeah, that worked out fine.
So we've got half an hour to start working in pairs. So can I just see who's got their profiles, whether it's on the screen? You've got a profile.
I mean, there's
Checking.
4 of us that are participants right now.
Yes.
Mhm.
What if we just did it as a cluster?
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 profile sets,
Okay.
and then Charles, who doesn't have one, gets a more
Well, I would
detailed-
do one. Is there a,
It takes
is there
an
a
hour.
paper handout? Oh, it takes an hour.
Well, yeah, half an hour to an hour.
Then I won't.
You will do one, but you'll see. Actually, well, it's kind of like cheating a bit to see what other people have
Mhm.
done. But having said that, if you're honest with yourself, it won't be cheating. You know, if you're highly aspirational and you want to be a level ahead of where you really are, you can cheat. But I'd advise you just to be straight and just do it. And it won't matter what people say now because that's them. It's not you. All right. Okay, so where are we going to do this? Where would be the best place? And thank you to the live stream viewers. At this point, we're going to sign off. Bill, what time are we going to be back?
Well, I think that our next module is really the case study.
Yes, the sort of learning
Yeah.
review.
So I think in terms of the live stream audience, this is the end of the content for delivery on live stream today. The rest of the time that we'll spend together will be in what we call the case study module. So this is going to build on the material that we did in 2 sessions this morning, and in particular those examples, the exercises that we did, will integrate those. So for the live stream audience, Dave, if you're still there in particular, we will reconvene tomorrow again at 9 o'clock
Okay.
and go into the 5th module.
Okay. Thank you.
One thing he wants to know where you can do the test.
Okay, we will send Dave a link as soon as we're done here today.
Perfect.
And when he wakes up, we'll have it ready to go.
Okay.
So Dave, we'll send you the link.
Nice commitment, Dave, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. And anyone else who's out there, if you want a link, just email us and we'll send it to you.
So do you want to take them through this? So essentially what we're going to do is this exercise and then take a break, and then the final module, if you will, is a synthesis of all of what was happening today. So Robin can facilitate this section, we'll take a break, and then I'll facilitate the final section of the day. And from an AV perspective, I mean, we can record that, but it's less oriented. It's not content